Now that the college basketball season is over, fans of basketball schools will have to wait 7 months until their team takes the court again. But the most dedicated fans of those schools will be cheering their school on in a football stadium whenever the college football season kicks off in 4 months. Every now and then, basketball schools will have really good seasons in football to where it makes you forget that the school is known just for basketball. In today's video, we are going to cover every basketball school's best football season. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First up, we've got North Carolina, with its best football season being in 1980. The Heels finished 11-1 and won the ACC. They were led by arguably the greatest defensive player of all time, Lawrence Taylor. He finished the year with 16 sacks and 22 tackles for loss. The North Carolina defense that year was very good as a whole. Outside of the one loss against Oklahoma where they gave up 41 points, North Carolina only allowed an average of 8 points per game. Offensively, North Carolina had two really good backs, Amos Lawrence and Kelvin Bryant, who both ran for over 1,000 yards. North Carolina defeated Texas in the Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl, which was the equivalent to the Texas Bowl today. This was the last year North Carolina won the ACC in football. Maybe Bill can end the drought. Next up is Duke, and it's been a tough history for Duke football. 2013 is the only season with double-digit wins. Duke had a pretty solid offense in 2013, averaged 33 points per game. The best player was Jamison Crowder, who was a small but really quick and shifty receiver who was an excellent route runner. Duke managed to win the ACC Coastal Division and get to the ACC Championship, but got absolutely boat raced by #1 Florida State, who was just way more talented. Duke then played in the Chick-fil-A Bowl versus Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M and went into the locker room up 38-17, but got toasted in the second half by Manziel. They could not stop him. Duke choked and lost 52-48, but still had a good season overall, 10-4 final record. Next up is UConn, and similar to Duke, UConn's had a pretty tough football history. 2010 was a pretty solid season, though. After starting the season 3-4, UConn won 5 in a row against Big East foes to clinch the Big East title. Little did UConn fans know, a few months later, the basketball team would do the exact same thing. UConn tied with West Virginia and Pitt in the Big East standings at the end of the season, but with wins over both of them, the Huskies were given the title. It was a great season for running back Jordan Todman. He won Big East Player of the Year and ended up playing in the NFL for a handful of years. UConn advanced to a BCS Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, but they did not have the talent to compete with Oklahoma. They got destroyed. Next up is Kansas, and 2007 was without a doubt the best Kansas football season in school history. Led by the unit himself, Mark Mangino, he had a pretty good roster that year that included Aqib Talib, one of the best corners in all of college football. The quarterback for the Jayhawks was Todd Reesing, and he was pretty undersized for a quarterback, but was an absolute gamer and consistently performed throughout the season, especially with his legs. Kansas wasn't just winning, they were taking heads and destroying teams. Some blowout wins included beating Baylor 58-10, beating Nebraska 76-39, and beating Iowa State 45-7. The biggest game of the season came on rivalry week. Undefeated #2 Kansas versus #4 Missouri for a spot in the Big 12 championship. After rallying late in the fourth quarter from a big deficit, Kansas could not score on the final drive and fell to Mizzou, ending its national title hopes. Kansas still made a BCS bowl game, the Orange Bowl versus #3 Virginia Tech, and came out on top to finish the season 12-1. And then 3 months later, Kansas won the national championship in basketball. What a time to be a Jayhawk fan. Next up is Gonzaga, and Gonzaga football has not existed since 1941. Gonzaga is the only basketball program considered a quote-unquote powerhouse to not have a football program. And there are a lot of factors as to why that is. Number one, it just costs a ton of money to start up a football program. Gonzaga doesn't have a stadium that seats more than 5,000 people, so they would need to build a new stadium. The university would have to hire an entire staff, pay for a roster, and build other facilities outside of the new stadium. Number two, Title IX would get in the way. Gonzaga would either have to add additional women's programs or cut some men's programs. A football program would bring in 85 additional scholarship male athletes. Number three, and most importantly, Gonzaga just does not have the interest. They're already a big-time basketball name and program that brings in a ton of money every year, and I don't think fans would want NIL money being taken away from the basketball program to go towards a new football program. Next up is Houston, and although Houston's had one-loss seasons in the 2010s, I'm going with 19 1989, not only because of Andre Ware's Heisman, but also the tougher schedule. Houston played in the Southwest Conference in 1989 and played teams like Texas, Arkansas, Texas Tech, and Texas A&M. That's a tougher schedule than playing in the American like they did in the 2010s. Houston ran the run and shoot offense and Ware flourished in it. He finished the season throwing for 4,700 yards and 46 touchdowns. Houston finished the season 9-2 with both losses coming by one possession. They could not play in a bowl game due to probation. UCLA's best football season came in 1998, and it was a bittersweet season for UCLA fans. Behind a very prolific offense, the Bruins started 10-0 and won the Pac-10 title. However, in the regular season finale, UCLA, one win away from going to the national championship game, choked a 38-21 second half lead. And it was against the Miami team they had no business losing to. UCLA then proceeded to lose the Rose Bowl on its home field to Wisconsin. A season that saw a Pac-10 title with wins over USC, Oregon, Arizona, and Texas ended in nightmare fashion. Next up is Syracuse, and its best football season was 1959, its only national championship. Outside of Penn State late in the season, Syracuse whooped every team it faced, outscoring opponents 413-73. Penn State was the only team to give Syracuse a run for its money, but it was not enough. Syracuse won by 2. Syracuse met Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and thanks to Ernie Davis's 2 touchdowns, the Orange won 23-14 to clinch the national title. And rest in peace to Davis. He died at a pretty young age, and there's a good movie about him called The Express. Definitely check it out. Next up is Louisville, and the Cardinals' best football season was 2006. The Cardinals had a really good offense in 2006, thanks to not only the offensive mastermind, Bobby Petrino, but also a really good backfield in quarterback Brian Brom and running back Michael Bush. Louisville looked like a true national championship contender the first 2/3 of the season, and after beating number 3 West Virginia to get to 8-0, it felt like the dream season. Unfortunately, Louisville fell the very next week on the road to a good Rutgers team. That loss did not stop Louisville from finishing the season strong. The Cardinals blew everyone else out, won the Big East and the Orange Bowl, and finished the season 12-1. And I'm taking this team as the best Louisville team over the Lamar Jackson teams because outside of him, the teams were not very good. Next up is Kentucky, and its best football season was 1950, its only natty. And they were coached by none other than Bear Bryant. Kentucky started the season 10-0 and just destroyed everybody behind a really good defense that only allowed 6 points per game and recorded 5 shutouts. Kentucky fell to Tennessee 7-0 in the last game of the regular season, but turned around and beat number 1 Oklahoma 13-7 in the Sugar Bowl to claim the natty. This was Bear Bryant's first of many national championships, the only one he won outside of Alabama. Next up is Villanova, the only FCS team covered in today's video. And in 2009, the Wildcats won the FCS Natty. That year, they compiled 8 ranked FCS wins and won big in a ton of them. Strength of schedule is important at all levels. In October, Villanova fell to New Hampshire by 4. Then in the FCS quarterfinals, got revenge and beat them 46-7. The championship game saw Villanova edge out number 1 Montana 23-21 to give Villanova a football title. And this title came about 8 months after Jay Wright took the basketball team to the Final Four. Next up is Virginia, and believe it or not, Virginia's best football season came this past season. Head coach Tony Elliott and the 2025 Cavaliers set a program record with 11 total wins. And they had some pretty awesome wins, including 3 overtime wins against Florida State, Louisville, and North Carolina. But they also had some pretty bad losses against unranked NC State, unranked Wake Forest, and unranked Duke in the ACC Championship. Virginia was able to finish the season strong, winning the Gator Bowl against Missouri. The future might be bright for Virginia football. Next up is Illinois, and 1951 is its most recent natty. Illinois finished 9-0-1, with the one tie being against Ohio State with a final score of 0-0. Football back then was hilarious. It was a good thing they tied, because otherwise Illinois may not have been number 1 in the final Big Ten standings. Illinois won the first nationally televised game against Stanford in the Rose Bowl, winning 40-7 to finish the season as national champions. Next up is Arizona, and although they won the Pac-10 in 1993, I think the 1998 season was much more impressive. After losing to UCLA, the same team that we talked about earlier, Arizona did not lose a game the rest of the season. The Wildcats finished the season 12-1 after beating Nebraska in a thriller in the Holiday Bowl. Chris McAllister was the best player on the team at corner and as a return specialist. He ended up being a part of those scary Baltimore Ravens defenses all throughout the 2000s. This season came the year after Miles Simon and Mike Bibby led Arizona to the national championship. If there was a college football playoff back in the 90s, maybe Arizona could have gotten a football natty shortly after winning the basketball natty. Next up is Purdue, and the Boilermakers do not have the best history as a football program, but 1966 was a pretty good season. Although Purdue went 0-2 against ranked opponents, games against non-ranked opponents were taken care of, with 3 of those wins being shutouts. Purdue came up short of the Big Ten title due to one of the ranked losses being to Michigan State, who finished the season undefeated. The season ended with a win over rival Indiana 51-6 and winning the Rose Bowl versus USC 14-13. The only Rose Bowl victory in Purdue history to finish the season 9-2. Lastly is Indiana, and a very easy and obvious choice here. Curt Cignetti turned Indiana into what felt like an overnight powerhouse. The team was not the most talented, but they were so well coached and barely made mistakes. 16-0, national champions, we all watched and we were all amazed. I'm still considering Indiana a basketball school for now, but that very well could change. Indiana basketball hasn't been the best over the last few decades, but the history within that program is too elite. And that school's known for basketball having their best season in football. Will we see more basketball schools able to compete in college football with the new landscape of NIL and the transfer portal? We shall see. Indiana certainly proved it is possible. But that is going to do it for this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.